That day, I was exhausted. I left work early, carrying the lunchbox my mom had prepared with so much care. It was my lunch and my dinner, because money was tight. As I crossed the square, I saw a man sitting on a bench. Torn clothes, scruffy beard, the empty look of someone who hadn't seen hope in a long time. He stared at me for a few seconds, then looked away, as if he didn't have the courage to ask for anything. I could have just kept walking. After all, that lunchbox was my only meal of the day. But something inside me wouldn't let me. I stopped, took a deep breath, and sat beside him. "Want to eat with me?" I asked. He lifted his eyes, surprised, as if no one had done that in a long time. He nodded silently. We shared the little I had: rice, beans, a piece of chicken. He ate slowly, with a silent gratitude that words couldn't describe. We talked a bit. He didn't share much about his life, only said he had once had everything and lost it all. Then suddenly, he stood up, thanked me, and walked away without another word. I sat there wondering if what I did had really made a difference for him, then went on with my day. That night, I went to meet my fiancée for an important dinner. She was nervous. It would be the first time I met her father, a reclusive man, rarely seen in public. I already knew he was wealthy, powerful, the owner of big companies, but I had no idea what to expect. We entered the dining hall. The table was long, filled with elegant people, and then, when the doors opened, I froze. The man who walked in wasn't just my fiancée's father. He was the very same man I had shared my food with earlier that afternoon. He looked at me, and a discreet smile appeared on his lips. "So, you're the young man," he said, before taking his seat at the head of the table. My heart nearly stopped. I couldn't understand what was happening. During dinner, he finally spoke. "Today I needed to be sure. Money, status, power, none of that matters if my daughter doesn't have someone with a true heart by her side. You proved to me who you really are without knowing I was watching." At that moment, every eye turned toward me. My fiancée squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes shining with emotion. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or thank him. I could only think of one thing: that simple act of sharing my food had changed the course of my life forever. The room went silent after his words. I could feel the weight of every gaze pressing down on me. My fiancée's father, the man I thought was just a stranger on a park bench, sat at the head of the table with the calm confidence of someone who owned everything in that room. But to me, he was still the man who had eaten half my lunch hours earlier. I tried to act normal, but inside, my thoughts were racing. Was this all a setup? Had my fiancée known? Was I just part of some cruel test? Dinner went on, but I barely tasted the food. The waiters served plate after plate of luxury I'd never even seen before, but all I could feel was the intensity of his stare. Every move I made, how I held my fork, how I spoke, even how I sat, felt like I was being judged. At one point, he leaned forward and asked me a question that silenced the entire table. "So, tell me, if I gave you everything, money, power, influence, what would you do with it?" I froze. Everyone was watching. My throat went dry. I could have said something impressive, something smart, something that would make me sound ambitious. But the truth slipped out instead. I'd take care of the people I love, and maybe try to make sure no one else has to beg for food in the street. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, to my surprise, he smiled, not the polite smile he'd worn earlier, but something genuine, almost proud. After dinner, he invited me into his private study. The walls were lined with shelves of old books, the kind that smelled of dust and history. There was a fireplace, a globe, and paintings that looked older than me. He poured himself a drink, then turned to me. "You think I'm testing you, don't you?" he asked. I nodded. "Aren't you?" He chuckled, then shook his head. "Life is the only real test. I just watch how people choose to live it." He walked closer, his voice dropping lower. "You gave away the only meal you had today. Do you know how rare that is? Most people, especially men who want to marry into money, would cling to every little thing they own. But you didn't. That tells me more about you than any words could." I didn't know what to say. I stood there, stunned, feeling smaller than ever in that grand room. Then he did something I never expected. He opened a drawer, pulled out an envelope, and handed it to me. Inside were documents, shares, legal papers, things I didn't fully understand. "What is this?" I asked, my hands trembling. He looked me straight in the eye. "It's an opportunity, a chance to prove that what I saw today wasn't a fluke. I'm not giving you money, I'm giving you responsibility. If you can handle this, you'll be ready to stand beside my daughter." I was speechless. It wasn't just about marrying her anymore. It was about stepping into a world I never thought I belonged to, a world that terrified me as much as it fascinated me. That night, as I walked home holding that envelope, my mind was a storm. My life had changed in a single day, from sharing a lunchbox with a stranger to holding the keys to a future I wasn't sure I was ready for. And deep down, one question haunted me: had he truly chosen me because of who I was, or was I just another piece in a game far bigger than I could imagine? I couldn't sleep that night. The envelope sat on my desk like a ghost, whispering questions I wasn't ready to answer. I didn't open it right away, I was too afraid of what I'd find. By morning, curiosity won. I carefully unfolded the papers inside. My hands shook as I read the words, transfer of ownership. The documents named me as the new manager of a small company, one of dozens owned by my fiancé's father. It wasn't a huge empire on its own, but it was real. Factories, employees, debts, profits, it was all suddenly in my hands. Why me? Why so fast? Later that week, I got a call from an unknown number. A deep voice said only one thing: meet me at the factory. Alone. I went. The place was massive, buzzing with machines and workers. But the moment I walked in, conversation stopped. Eyes followed me everywhere. Whispers spread like fire. That's him, the one the boss picked. An older man in a worn suit approached me. He introduced himself as the plant manager, but his tone wasn't welcoming. You don't belong here, he said flatly. This company isn't a game. People's lives depend on it. If you fail, families starve. His words cut deeper than any threat. I wasn't just dealing with money or power, I was holding the future of hundreds of workers in my hands. That night, at my fiancé's house, I finally confronted her. Did you know about this? About your father testing me? She hesitated. Too long. Then she whispered, I didn't know the details. But, he's done this before. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Her eyes filled with fear. Every man who tried to marry me, he tested them. Some failed. Some disappeared. Disappeared? I repeated. She didn't answer. She just looked away, her silence louder than any explanation. The next day, a letter arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 4 words written in bold ink: trust no one inside. I didn't know who sent it, one of the workers, an enemy of her father, or maybe someone trying to protect me. But one thing was clear, this wasn't just about love anymore. It was about survival. I didn't sleep 4 days. The anonymous warning haunted me: trust no one inside. I started carrying the letter in my pocket, unfolding it again and again as if staring at the words would reveal who wrote them. It didn't, but it planted a seed of fear I couldn't ignore. The factory was now my responsibility, but the moment I walked in each morning, I could feel the hostility. Some workers avoided my eyes, others stared at me with open contempt. I was the outsider, the intruder, the man who had inherited power without earning it. And then the accident started. The first was small, a broken machine that nearly crushed a worker's hand. Everyone said it was just old equipment. The second was worse, a fire in the storage room that destroyed thousands of dollars worth of material. The fire department ruled it inconclusive. But I knew, these weren't accidents. Someone wanted me out. Or dead. One night, I returned home to find my apartment door slightly open. My stomach twisted. I stepped inside cautiously. Nothing seemed stolen. But on the kitchen table lay the envelope, the same one her father had given me, ripped open. The papers were gone. Only one thing remained, another note. This time, it read, you don't deserve her. Leave, while you still can. I went to my fiancée in desperation. I showed her the note, my voice shaking. She read it silently, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't read: fear, sadness, maybe both. Finally, she said, I warned you. My father doesn't let just anyone into his world. If he gave you responsibility, it means he's watching every single move you make. And if someone else left that note, she trailed off. I pressed her. What are you not telling me? Her eyes filled with tears. She grabbed my hand. You think this is about proving your worth? It's not. It's about survival. Because once you step into my father's empire, there's no way out. The next day, I was summoned to her father's mansion again. This time, the invitation wasn't optional. 2 men in dark suits showed up at my door. They didn't speak during the drive. Inside the mansion, I was led not to the grand dining hall, but down a long staircase into a hidden basement. The air was damp. The walls were lined with filing cabinets, safes, and old security monitors. Her father was waiting for me, seated at a large desk under a single dim light. He gestured for me to sit. When I did, he leaned forward, his voice low, almost a whisper. You think I gave you a company to test your kindness? No, that was just the surface. He slid a file across the desk. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were photos, grainy surveillance shots, of me, my fiancée, even my mother. He continued, When you gave me your food that day, you proved you had a good heart. But good hearts alone don't survive in my world. I need to know if you can protect what's yours, at any cost. I looked at the photos, my pulse pounding. Whoever took them had been watching us for weeks, maybe months. I whispered, what happens if I fail? He smiled faintly. Then you disappear, like the others. When I left that basement, I wasn't the same man. I understood now, this wasn't just a test of love. It was initiation into something much darker. The envelope wasn't a gift, it was a trap, and if I wanted to protect the woman I loved, I'd have to play a game I never agreed to. The night after my meeting in the basement, I couldn't breathe. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my fiancée asleep beside me, her hand resting gently on my chest as if to anchor me. But all I felt was the echo of her father's words, then you disappear. Like the others. The others. How many? Who? And why had no one dared to ask? The next morning, I returned to the factory. Something was different. The atmosphere felt heavier, like the air itself knew a secret. When I reached my office, the plant manager, the same man who told me I didn't belong, was waiting for me. You need to see this, he said. He slid a folder across my desk. Inside were old personnel records. Dozens of names, each marked with the same stamp, terminated. At first, I thought it meant they were fired. But then I noticed something chilling. Every one of those names was followed by the same date format. No resignation letters, no exit interviews, just dates. I asked, what does this mean? The manager leaned closer, lowering his voice. It means they are gone. Not fired, not transferred, gone. And no one ever talks about it again. That night, I confronted my fiancée again. Your father said people disappeared. The factory records prove it. How long have you known? She looked at me with tears in her eyes, her lips trembling. I tried to protect you, she whispered. I begged him not to bring you into this. I felt my stomach twist. Bring me into what? She hesitated. Then she said the words that broke me. My father doesn't just own companies. He owns people. Once you're in, you're trapped. The ones who disappear, those are the ones who resist. The next day, I received another anonymous letter. No envelope this time, just folded paper slid under my apartment door. It read, they are watching you. Tonight, don't go home. My hand shook as I read it over and over. I grabbed my phone, but before I could call anyone, it buzzed with a new message. No name, just a single line, meet me at the docks, midnight. Against every ounce of reason, I went. The docks were empty, the sound of water slapping against wood echoing in the night. Fog rolled in thick, swallowing the street lights one by one. Then I saw him, the plant manager. He was pacing, nervous, looking over his shoulder. When he spotted me, he rushed forward. You don't understand, he hissed. This isn't business, it's blood. Your fiancé's father built his empire on deals no one talks about. Blackmail, smuggling, extortion, and now he's testing you to see if you're willing to get your hands dirty. I shook my head. Why are you telling me this? Because I can't do it anymore, he said. I was like you once. Young, desperate, thinking I could survive his world. But every day, another piece of me died. You have to get out before it's too late. Before I could respond, headlights cut through the fog. A black car pulled up. The manager's face went pale. It's too late, he whispered. The doors opened. Two men stepped out, her father's men. One of them pointed at me. Boss wants to see you. Now. I was shoved into the car, my heart pounding like a war drum. The ride was silent except for the hum of the engine. When we arrived, I wasn't taken to the mansion. Instead, they drove me to a remote warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Inside, under the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, her father waited. He sat calmly at a table, a glass of whiskey in his hand. You've learned too much, he said. The question is, what are you going to do with it? I swallowed hard. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. I'm not leaving her. Whatever game this is, I won't run. For the first time, his expression hardened into something darker, colder. He leaned back, studying me like a predator deciding whether to strike. Good, he said finally, because now, you're going to prove it. He snapped his fingers. The doors opened. Two men dragged someone inside, blooded, bound, beaten. When I saw the face, my stomach dropped. It was the plant manager. Her father looked at me with ice in his eyes. Your first real task, he said. Decide what happens to him. The room went silent except for the ragged breathing of the plant manager, tied to the chair, blood running down his face. He looked at me with eyes full of pain, eyes that begged me not for life, but for dignity. Her father slid a pistol across the table toward me. The metal scraped against the wood, the sound louder than thunder in my ears. This is the moment, he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. The moment you choose whether you belong in this family, men disappear for two reasons: because they are weak, or because they are disloyal. Which one are you? My hands trembled as I stared at the gun. My heart screamed no. My body screamed run. But my mind, my terrified mind, kept replaying the pictures he had shown me of my mother, my fiancé, everyone I loved. If I refused, would they be next? The manager's voice broke the silence. Don't do it, he croaked. That's how he wins. That's how he traps you. Once you spill blood for him, you'll never leave. I looked at him, torn apart inside. His face was swollen, barely recognizable, but his eyes still burned with defiance. Her father leaned closer. His words cut like a knife. Love is weakness. Survival is strength. If you can't do this, you'll never protect my daughter. I felt the weight of the gun in my hand before I even realized I had picked it up. My finger hovered near the trigger. The room was spinning. My mind split into two voices. One whispered, pull the trigger. Survive. Protect her. The other screamed, if you do this, you're no better than him. Finally, I aimed. But not at the manager. I turned the gun and pointed it straight at her father. Gasps filled the room. His men froze, hands twitching toward their holsters. My voice cracked, but it came out steady enough. You want a test? Here it is. If protecting her means becoming like you, then I'd rather die. The silence that followed was unbearable. Seconds felt like hours. Then, he laughed. A low, cruel laugh that echoed off the warehouse walls. Interesting, he said, leaning back in his chair as if this was all entertainment to him. Very interesting. He gestured to his men. Take him away. He's not ready. Not yet. The pistol was ripped from my hands. Rough arms pulled me backward. As they dragged me out, the last thing I saw was the manager's face, broken, blooded, but alive. For now. They locked me in a dark room, somewhere deep in the warehouse. Hours passed. Or maybe days, I couldn't tell. When the door finally creaked open, I expected a beating, maybe even an execution. Instead, she walked in. My fiancée. Her eyes were red from crying. She rushed to me, gripping my face in her hands. Why did you do that? She whispered. You don't know what you've started. I searched her eyes. Tell me the truth. Have you always known about the disappearances? About his empire? She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she confessed. I tried to hide it because I wanted to believe he wasn't a monster. But you saw it. You felt it. And now you're in it, just like I am. My chest tightened. Then we need to get out. Both of us. Her silence was the worst answer of all. Finally, she whispered, there is no out. The words echoed in my head, there is no out. Her voice trembled as she said it, her hands gripping mine as if she was begging me to stop fighting. But I couldn't. The thought of surrendering to her father's world, becoming like him, made my blood boil. No, I said firmly, there's always a way out. She shook her head, tears streaking her cheeks. You don't understand. I've seen men try. Some ran, some begged, some even fought, and all of them ended up gone. My father has eyes everywhere. Money, power, people who owe him favors. If you disappear, no one will even ask questions. Her words hit me like a hammer. I wanted to scream, to punch the walls, to break something, anything. But instead, I held her hand tighter. If there's no way out, I whispered, then we'll make one. She looked at me, her expression torn between hope and fear. That night, I wasn't allowed to leave the warehouse. Guards stood outside the locked door, but while she sat with me, she slipped something into my pocket, a tiny folded piece of paper. When the guards dragged me out later and threw me back into my apartment, I unfolded it under the dim kitchen light. It was a map, crude, hand-drawn, but clear enough. At the bottom, she had written 3 words, trust only this. The next day at the factory, tension was boiling. Workers moved like shadows, whispering, glancing at me when they thought I wasn't looking. The plant manager hadn't returned since that night, and everyone knew better than to ask why. As I walked through the floor, one of the younger workers slipped a folded rag into my hand, pretending to wipe the sweat from his forehead. Inside was another message. You're not alone. Midnight. Same docks. My pulse spiked. Was it a trap? Or was someone truly trying to help me? I had no choice but to find out. At midnight, I returned to the docks. Fog swallowed the world again. This time, 2 figures waited. One was the young worker. The other was the plant manager. Alive. Barely. His face was a mask of bruises, but he stood on his own feet. I told you, he rasped. Once you're in, you're trapped. But maybe you're the one who can break it. I stared at him in disbelief. Why me? He smiled bitterly. Because he underestimates you. He thinks you're just some kid in love. That's his mistake. and maybe our only chance. Before I could respond, the sound of engines cut through the night. Headlights. Black subs rolling toward us. Run, the manager hissed. We sprinted through the fog, the sound of boots pounding after us. Guns hots cracked the air, bullets slamming into shipping containers around us. I grabbed the worker's arm and pulled him behind cover, my heart exploding in my chest. The manager fired back with a pistol I hadn't even noticed he carried. Go, he shouted. They are not after me anymore, they are after you. But I couldn't leave him. Not again. We ducked into an abandoned storage building, panting, sweat mixing with blood and salt air. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to think, trying to breathe. The worker spoke between gasps. There's more of us, people inside. Workers, families, all of us living under his thumb. We've been waiting for someone to fight back. I froze. You mean, there's a resistance? He nodded. Not organized. Not yet. But he gave you power, even if it's just a piece. That makes you dangerous. And useful. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. This time, just 2 words, she knows. My chest tightened. Was it my fiancée? Did she know I was at the docks? Did she betray me, or was she trying to protect me? The manager grabbed my arm. Listen to me. You have a choice. You can disappear like the others, or you can fight. But if you fight, you need to be ready to lose everything. I stared at the map she had given me, folded tight in my pocket. 2 paths lay before me: run with the resistance, or go back to her and try to tear down her father's empire from the inside. Either way, there was no turning back. The warehouse felt like a tomb. Dust hung in the air, mixing with the metallic scent of old rust. The plant manager leaned against the wall, clutching his ribs, blood soaking through his shirt. The younger worker kept watch by the door, trembling, but determined. I pulled the crumpled map from my pocket, staring at it under the dim light filtering through the broken windows. A line, a circle, an exit route that led deep into the city, far from the docks. But the words on my phone burned hotter in my mind than the gunfire that had chased us. She knows. Did that mean she betrayed me, or was she warning me? My heart twisted. Every moment I had spent with her flashed before me, the laughter, the promises, the way she whispered forever when no one was listening. Could love survive in a world built on lies? The manager groaned. He won't stop until you're broken. That's how he builds loyalty, through fear, through blood. If you go back, he'll make you choose again, and again, until there's nothing left of you. I shook my head. And if I run, he'll hunt me. Hunt us. You said it yourself, he has eyes everywhere. The young worker stepped forward, his fists clenched. That's why we need you. You've seen his empire from the inside. You've seen how he tests, how he manipulates. You could lead us. You could help us strike back. Strike back? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. Do you even understand what that means? He has money, politicians, killers. And you, I gestured to the trembling worker, you have nothing but desperation. The manager's gaze locked on mine. Sometimes desperation is enough. Before I could respond, headlights cut through the cracks in the walls. Black subs again, engines rumbling. The ground vibrated beneath us. They found us, the worker hissed. The manager shoved a pistol into my hand. You decide now, fight or surrender. There won't be another chance. My heart hammered as footsteps closed in outside. Shadows stretched across the walls. Voices shouted orders. Then, through the chaos, my phone buzzed again. Another message. Meet me, alone, the pier. It was from her. We escaped through the back, sprinting across the dockyard as gunfire erupted behind us. The worker peeled off in one direction, the manager in another, scattering like hunted animals. I ran toward the pier, my lungs burning, the pistol heavy in my grip. And there she was, standing in the fog, a silhouette framed by the glow of a single lamppost. Her hair whipped in the night wind, her face pale with fear, or was it guilt? I slowed my steps, the gun still in my hand. You set me up, I said, my voice raw. No, she cried, shaking her head. I sent the warning. I'm the reason you're still alive. I search her eyes, desperate for truth, terrified of lies. Then why does it feel like every step I take leads me deeper into his trap? Tears spilled down her cheeks. She took a step closer, because that's what he does. That's what he's always done. But I don't want to lose you. I'll help you. I'll find a way, just don't give up on me. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But then she whispered something that shattered me. He knows about the resistance. My blood ran cold. She gripped my arm, her nails digging into my skin. They are already marked. All of them. If you side with them, if you even try to help, he'll wipe them out, and you with them. I pulled away, my chest heaving. And what about us? Do you think we can survive this? You, me, and your father's empire hanging over our heads. Her silence was the answer I feared. The sound of boots thundered closer. Flashlights cut through the fog. Her father's men were closing in fast. She looked at me with panic in her eyes. Choose, now. Come with me, I can keep you alive. Or go with them, and you'll die before sunrise. I raised the pistol, torn between two worlds. Behind me, the shadows of resistance. Before me, the woman I loved, tied by blood to the man who wanted to own me. Two futures, both poisoned. I took a step forward, the choice clawing at my soul. And then, a single gunshot split the night. The sound of the gunshot tore the night apart. For a moment, the world froze. Fog, lamplight, her pale face, my shaking hands. Then she gasped. Her knees buckled. I lunged forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Blood spread across her shoulder, hot and sticky against my palm. Relief and horror collided in me. She was alive, but wounded. Behind me, shadows emerged from the fog. The manager, the young worker, and behind them, more figures, men and women I'd never seen before, all rough, tired, desperate. The resistance. The shot hadn't come from her father's men. It had come from them. The manager lowered his smoking pistol, his face hard as stone. She was leading you straight back to him, he growled. I had no choice. No choice, I snapped, my voice breaking. She's the only reason I'm alive right now. He shook his head. No, she's the reason you're still trapped. Every word, every tear, don't you see? She's part of his game. That's how he works. He breaks men through the people they love. I pressed my hand harder against her wound. She whimpered, her eyes wide with pain. I didn't betray you, she whispered. I swear, I was trying to save you. My heart cracked. Who was lying? Who was telling the truth? The resistance members fanned out, weapons ready, keeping watch as more of her father's subs closed in. Headlights cut through the fog, beams sweeping across the dockyard like prison searchlights. We don't have time for this, the worker hissed. Either she comes with us, or she doesn't. Choose. Choose. That word again. Always choices, always traps. I looked down at her. Her hand clutched mine, her grip weak but desperate. Don't leave me, she whispered. I looked at the manager. His face was carved with scars and fury. If she comes, we all die. If you bring her, you're putting every one of us in the grave. The fog thickened. Engines roared closer. Men shouted orders in the distance. I had seconds to decide whether love was real, or whether it was just another cage. Finally, I stood, my arms wrapped around her trembling body. She comes, I said. My voice was iron. If she's lying, I'll end it myself. But I won't abandon her. The manager's jaw tightened, his eyes filled with something between rage and pity. But he didn't argue. Instead, he barked orders, and the resistance scattered, leading us into the shadows of the dockyard. Gunfire exploded behind us. Screams tore through the night. The chase was on. We ran through alleys and shipping containers, every step echoing with chaos. I carried her, her blood soaking into my shirt, her breath hot against my neck. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed, not police, not salvation, but another piece of her father's empire closing in. The manager appeared at my side, firing back at the subs. You've just signed all our death warrants, he snarled. I ignored him. I kept running. Because deep down, in spite of the fear, in spite of the doubt, I knew one thing, whether she was my salvation or my ruin. I couldn't let her go. The safe house was nothing more than a gutted warehouse on the edge of the city. Cracked windows, broken beams, the smell of oil and rust. But it was the only place the resistance had left. I laid her down on a makeshift cot, her skin pale, her shoulder bleeding through the bandages a resistance medic had slapped on. She clutched my wrist, refusing to let go, her eyes heavy with pain. You shouldn't have brought me, she whispered. I shook my head. I wasn't leaving you. Not now, not ever. From across the room, the manager's voice cut through the air like a blade. You just doomed us all. The resistance gathered around him, a dozen faces illuminated by candlelight and the faint glow of stolen radios. Men and women with hollow eyes, hands calloused from work, every one of them carrying scars of survival. She's a spy, one man spat. She's bait, another growled. She's dying, I snapped back. The worker who had first slipped me the message at the factory stood beside me. We can't keep turning on each other, he said softly. If we do, he wins without firing a single bullet. But the manager wouldn't let it go. He slammed his hand on the table, rattling the old maps spread across it. Don't you get it? Her father already knows where we are. He knows everything. Every move, every whisper. And it's because of her. I rose to my feet, fists clenched. If you touch her, if any of you lay a hand on her, I swear, or what? The manager snapped. You'll kill me, like he asked you to? Like you almost did?" The room fell silent. His words cut deeper than the wound in her shoulder, because he was right. Before the silence could suffocate us, the radios crackled to life. Static. Then a voice, calm and merciless, "You have something of mine." Her father. The entire room froze. "I'll give you until dawn," the voice continued. "Bring her back to me, and I'll let the rest of you live. Refuse, and I'll burn your safe house to the ground, with every last one of you inside." The transmission ended. The silence that followed was suffocating. The resistance exploded into arguments. "He'll kill us all anyway. He might let us live. We can't risk it. We can't hand her over." The manager turned to me, his eyes cold. "You've forced our hand. You wanted her? She's your burden. But if we die because of you, their blood is on your head." I looked at her, weak, trembling, tears streaking her face. She tried to speak, but the words dissolved into sobs. And in that moment, I realized something terrible. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of going back. That night, while the others argued, I sat by her side, holding her hand. She whispered through cracked lips, "You don't know him like I do. If I go back, I'll never come out again. Not alive. Not me." Her voice broke, and with it, so did my last illusions. I couldn't save her by protecting her. I could only save her by destroying him. By dawn, the choice was made. The resistance had voted. Half wanted to hand her over. Half wanted to fight. The manager looked at me. "Decide. If you want her alive, we fight your war. If you hand her over, we might live, but you'll lose her forever." The sun rose, bleeding red light through the broken windows. I stood, pistol in hand, the weight of every life pressing down on me. "No more running," I said. My voice didn't shake this time. "No more tests. No more cages. We fight." The manager stared at me for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he nodded. Outside, engines roared. Black SUVs surrounded the safe house. The Empire was here. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. The first bullet shattered the windows before the sun fully cleared the horizon. The safe house shook with gunfire, engines roaring, boots pounding against concrete outside. The resistance scrambled into position. Old rifles, stolen pistols, Molotov cocktails, their weapons were mismatched, but their fury was real. "Positions," the manager bellowed, dragging a crate across the entrance for cover. The younger worker shoved a shotgun into my hands. "Stay with her," he said, his eyes wild with fear and fire. I glanced back at her, my fiancée, still pale on the cot, blood soaking through the bandages. Her lips trembled as she tried to sit up. "Go," she whispered. "If he takes me, it's over. For both of us." But I couldn't leave her. Not again. The walls erupted in splinters as bullets tore through. Men shouted. Women screamed. Smoke and dust filled the air. The manager fired through a gap, dropping one of the black-clad soldiers storming the yard. The safe house became a war zone. I dragged her behind a stack of crates, shielding her with my body as grenades rattled the walls. The younger worker was at the window, firing wildly, screaming curses into the morning light. For a moment, I thought we might hold them. Until the front doors blew open. He walked in, not with a mask, not with a gun, but with the calm stride of a man who owned the world. Her father, the Empire himself. Behind him, his men fanned out like shadows, rifles raised, lasers cutting through the smoke. The gunfire ceased, as if the world itself paused for him. Even the resistance froze, their weapons still trembling in their hands. He adjusted his cufflinks, his voice smooth and steady. "I offered you mercy," he said, his eyes sweeping across the room. "And this is how you repay me? With defiance?" No one answered. Then his eyes found me, and for the first time, I felt the weight of his gaze, not just power, but something colder, deeper. He wasn't just a man. He was a force. He stepped closer, ignoring the guns aimed at him. "You think this, rabble, will save you? Do you know how many I've crushed before you? How many sons, brothers, lovers thought they could fight me? Do you know where they are now?" His smile was slow, cruel. "They are in the ground. And their women, well, let's just say they don't whisper forever anymore." Her hand clutched mine so hard her nails dug into my skin. "Don't listen," she begged. But my rage drowned everything else out. I stood, shotgun heavy in my hands, my chest heaving. "This ends today." The manager barked. "Shoot him." But her father only raised a hand, calm as death. His men didn't fire. They didn't need to. He had something more powerful than bullets, control. "Do it," he said softly. "Pull the trigger. Kill me in front of them. And then what? Do you think they'll follow you? Do you think she'll love you, knowing you killed her blood?" The room spun. My finger curled against the trigger. Behind me, the resistance shifted, uncertain, watching. This wasn't just war anymore, it was theater. A stage, he commanded. She whispered, her voice breaking, "Don't." The manager shouted, spitting with fury, "Do it." And her father smiled, knowing he had me cornered in a trap deeper than bullets. "You see, boy," he said, his voice like velvet poison, "this isn't a war, it's a test, and every choice you make only proves one thing." He leaned closer, his eyes drilling into mine. "You are mine." In that moment, something inside me snapped. I didn't fire. I didn't surrender. I swung the shotgun like a bat, smashing the butt into his jaw. He staggered back, blood spilling from his lip, shock flashing in his eyes for the first time. The room erupted. Gunfire roared. The resistance screamed. His men surged forward, and in the chaos, I grabbed her, dragging her through the smoke, running not for victory, not for survival, but for freedom. The war had begun, and I had just declared myself the enemy.